Hello dears, Nelly Khachatryan is here with you today. I'm happy to welcome you at our podcast Childhood Today and our series Children and Screens. When we started this series, we didn't think that it's going to go this long, but we still feel that there is a lot to tell in this topic, and we still will go on the conversations about children and screens and invite also experts in the field to talk about this topic. We are planning to have a number of series in our podcast, and the first series is Children and Screens series. I invited a great guest, Nelly Khachatryan. And since our conversation was in Armenian, I'm going to present our interview in English. Nelly Khachatryan is a pedagogue and psychologist by profession, and she has over 23 years of experience in the field of education and child development, working from early childhood to university level. Nelly is also a co-founder of Indigami Child Development Center, as well as she is the head of the Private Early Childhood Association in Armenia. And last year, when I was doing a research in the Armenian context about children and screens, searching for the information that has been available here in Armenia, I was very happy to come across with Nelly's research that she co-authored with another expert. And this research was done in 2020, and it was exploring the impact of technology on children's well-being. So we sat down with Nelly to talk about her research and her experience and practice in relation to screens, since she has been working in this field before the screens became available everywhere and also to children. And also she is working with children and parents in the digital reality, and she has a personal interest in the topic of children and screens, and at the moment she is also working on her second research, which will come out soon. So when I asked Nelly what was her motive to start the research, she said that it has a long story, and it started long ago when she noticed a lot of issues that children were coming to her center, or children in the families around her, having a number of issues such as speech delay, sleep deprivation, or hyperactivity. And at the same time, she said that 3 years ago, when she was teaching at the European University, she was working with a group of young students from the ages 17 to 21. And she said that I always say that my research is devoted to one of my students who was trying to convince me that playing video games for 9 hours a day is very beneficial. When I asked Nelly what was the method of doing the research, she said that they did a literature review and researched all the available literature, mainly from the English language and Russian language sources. And she said that it's very thrilling to see a child's brain development and know all this information, and know also how much the screens may affect a child's brain development, especially at very young ages. And the research shows that every child at birth has 85 billion neurons. And each neuron has 2,500 synapses in their turn. And within the first years of child's life, these 2,500 synapses that are in each cell grow into 15,000. So can you imagine what is going on in our brains? The research also shows that at the teenage years, this development is becoming less. Those synaptic connections that have been used more frequently during child's early years still go on functioning, and those that have not been used, they are disappearing. Synaptic connections are being developed mostly from year 2 to 5. And what is very important that both negative and positive experiences of children that they had from 2 to 5 years of age stay with children throughout their whole lifespan. So it's important to point out that all this research was done through MRI and other tests that have proven the above said. And there is this red line that goes throughout all the research that she has done, that a human connection is the most vital, and nothing else can replace human connection and the impact and the importance of human connection. So at the early stages of child's life, screens should be eliminated, and screens are bringing a lot of hazards, and we know from research that it impacts on children's sleep. They have sleep deprivation, and there is also research that was done in Great Britain among 750 children within the span of 5 years, which found out that the screen's impact on children's brain, especially the melatonin, and it impacts on their sleep, and we know how important is sleep for children. It also impacts on children's speech development, language development, and it causes speech delay. And Nelly said that she met a lot of children that had this issue in her practice, and she met also a lot of information about this in the scientific literature. And we all know how important is the speech development for children's brain development. But the problem is that children are introduced to screens at very early ages. This is what she says. And even children that are several months can be given screens. And what she says is that the worst thing that you can do to your child is to give a screen when they are really young. And she said she often meets parents that say that, oh, my child can differentiate colors or shapes in English or in Russian, and they are very proud of this, but the child does not have a developed mother tongue. And here it's very, very concerning. And what we should tell parents, and what the parents should know, that if the child doesn't have a well-developed mother tongue, just imitating words and phrases that they saw from screen does not mean that the child knows this language. So first of all, for all of us, is very important to know that the child in the first place needs to develop his or her mother tongue, and then we can move to other languages. And she said, if we want to introduce to children, first of all, we need to take into account children's age, children's mental and physical development, children's readiness to be introduced to screens. And what we also notice in the research, said Nelly, that in the red line we also see that children are more anxious, and that the screens impact greatly on children's mental well-being. And she said that there are recommendations from the American Pediatrician Association that is recommending that children should not use screens until the age of 2, and that is really very damaging for children in many ways. And Nelly shares her experience, saying that her children, for instance, until the age of 4, and her children until the age of 4 had very limited time in front of screens. They used it only like 2 or 3 times a week for 15 minutes only. And she could see the benefits of not using screens at these early stages of children's lives later, now when they are already in their teenage years. And she also notices this among other parents and other children, seeing the benefits, that how creative are children, how flexible they are, and how resilient they are. I also asked Nelly if she has any information whether in Armenia the pediatricians are doing any kind of screening while children are visiting them in regard of usage of screens or technology. She said she didn't come across to such information. Maybe there is such an information, but it is available among very narrow groups. However, she said that she made a lot of research and a lot of information especially among speech therapists and psychologists that are coming across this issue. And she mentions about the research done by Cyrianoush Antonian, who has been researching this topic. I asked Nelly whether there is awareness raising events or information available publicly, and she said that in her research that she is conducting now, they asked 145 parents and 90 children from 10 to 18 years of age this question, and what's interesting that most of them are very well aware about the dangers that technology can bring, but at the same time parents do not have the necessary skills and tools to monitor and lessen children's screen time. From the point of view of the state, I cannot say that our government is doing big scale events or is working towards this. And moreover, I would say that in the state early childhood settings, the safe internet or safe online topic have been introduced to teach to children. This is very early for children because first of all, this is the age that children should not have screens so that they know how to navigate safely online. And at the same time, she thinks that screens should be introduced later in the school years and use it as an educational tool. Only in this case it is acceptable. And here we are ending the first part of our conversation. Thank you very much for being with us today. Today we had an interview with Nelly Khachatryan, who is a pedagogue and a psychologist and has a huge experience in the field of children and child development. And I'm very excited to share with you the second part of our episode during our next episodes. So have a nice day and see you soon.
This podcast is created for you by My Agri Summer International Camp. Follow us in Facebook, Instagram, and in our YouTube page. And learn more about us in our webpage www.myagrisummer.com.